The environment was not fostered overnight, but town hall opposition to health care reform and all those teabagger rallies gave comfort to racism and even intimations of violence. The birther movement was nothing more than an extreme and desperate attempt to delegitimize a new president. And Congressman Joe Wilson's "you lie," though a first, should not have been a surprise. In our third story in the countdown, a sweeping new report on anti-government rage in America not only connects the dots, it refuses to let off the hook the most irresponsible voice in the mainstream media, the man it describes as the fear-monger-in-chief. Glenn Beck simply stated, Beck creates an intersection between the mainstream and the extreme, according to the report by the Anti-Defamation League. It calls Beck, quote, the most important mainstream media figure who has repeatedly helped to stoke fires of anti-government anger. Even routine attacks by Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity don't compare to Beck, who, along with his guests, quote, have made a habit of demonizing President Obama and promoting conspiracy theories about his administration. Beck has compared Obama to Adolf Hitler. One of Beck's guests claimed that Obama was trying to create a civilian national security force. Beck once promoted the conspiracy theory that FEMA was building concentration camps to house dissidents, though he eventually backed away from it. But Beck has consistently posed that Obama is dangerous to America. The United States, Beck says, quote, is headed towards socialism, totalitarianism beyond your wildest imagination. Beck's obsession with Obama's so-called czars, one example, decrying a term proudly launched by the Republicans under Nixon and Reagan and not actually used by the current administration.
We already know of at least 5 radical leftists currently advising the President of the United States. And these are just the ones who are open about their radical beliefs and far-left ideas. We have our own czar, but it goes by a different name here. Oh, there he is. President. Remember, in history, the czars were absolute rulers who answered to no one. That's not a good thing.
Beck is just part of the ADL report, which takes stock of the ugliest aspects of those town hall meetings and the teabagger rallies, the birther movement, and Joe Wilson's "you lie." But the September 12th rally in Washington, the report notes, featured the worst in racist, violent imagery since Obama was elected. That event heavily promoted, of course, by Beck, a man who projects his own hate onto others.
This president, I think, has exposed himself as a guy over and over and over again who has a deep-seated hatred for white people or the white culture. I don't know what it is. I'm not saying that he doesn't like white people. I'm saying he has a problem. This guy is, I believe, a racist.
Let's bring in the co-founder, editor-in-chief of the Huffington Post, Arianna Huffington. Good evening, Arianna.
Good evening, Keith.
It would be nice to think of Glenn Beck just as a joke, as fodder for this show and The Daily Show and others that point out how stupid some of this stuff is. But this report, suggests something else. This is the fearmonger-in-chief term is frightening.
It is frightening. Well, I would say that the fearmonger-in-chief title should still be reserved for Dick Cheney, even in retirement. But barring that, there is something that we need to really pay attention to with Glenn Beck. We cannot just dismiss him, because the truth of the matter is that there is a good reason why we have an exemption to the free speech protected by the First Amendment when we say you cannot shout fire in a crowded theater. And he's doing that every night. He's basically using images of violence to bring together with all that he's accusing the Obama administration of, which varies, from racism to communism, Nazism, and everything else in between. So all that has definitely an impact. I believe words matter, language matters, and he's using it in incredibly irresponsible ways night after night.
What do you say to the argument that this country has always self-corrected, that whether it was Father Coughlin on the radio in the 30s or Bo Carter, who was a newscaster who presented literally stuff that was made up on the hour on CBS News in the 30s, or the columnist Westbrook Pegler, or Senator Joe McCarthy, all these people met a finale in which they exited the stage, and suddenly, what is to say that that's not going to happen here?
Well, I hope it's going to happen, but it's not going to happen without people pointing out what Glenn Beck is doing. I mean, we saw how it worked. with Lou Dobbs and John Klein. You know, John Klein in the end fired Lou Dobbs from CNN. Pressure makes a difference. So we all have a part to play here in pointing out what Glenn Beck is doing. And even though he may not be legally liable if violence ensues from what he does, he's morally liable, and so is Fox and Rupert Murdoch and Roger Ailes for keeping him on the air.
Some of Beck's claims, according to this report from the ADL, let me quote it again, play an important role in drawing people further out of the mainstream, making them more receptive to extreme notions and conspiracy theories. And without trying to go into Sociology 101, isn't the point here that people like Beck enable some of the wildest, most paranoid notions about what the U.S. government is doing, and instead of people thinking as they think these things, for whatever reasons they think them, no, that's crazy, he says, no, you're not crazy, come with me down this path.
Yes, but on top of it, Keith, what makes it possible for Glenn Beck to enable and indeed to take advantage of what's happening is the fact that there is a lot of misery out there. There is a lot of legitimate anger. People are losing their jobs, they are losing their homes, or they are afraid of losing their jobs or losing their homes. So it is in this climate of often legitimate rage that Glenn Beck comes in and provides scapegoats. I mean, traditionally throughout history, these are the dangerous times, and that's why our various establishments also need to become much more sensitive to what is happening out there and not leave it up to the Glenn Becks of the world to take advantage of what's happening.
Obviously, the new component to this is the race of the president, and a lot of this rage that we're discussing here is rooted in racism, something we certainly knew before the ADL put out its analysis, but you know, Beck tried unsuccessfully to turn that one in the other direction, claiming that Mr. Obama is the racist. Is that the twist by which he and the other actual racists are rationalizing their own prejudice, simply projected onto the other people?
It is a classic case of projection, but even worse than Glenn Beck saying that is the fact that Rupert Murdoch endorsed it, although then he took it away, or that we have people like Senator Chuck Grassley giving away books of Glenn Beck. So this is really what the ADL report is talking about, this sort of intersection between the mainstream and the extreme. They're always extremes. They're always paranoids who sound like Russell Crowe in A Beautiful Mind, you know, connecting everything and scaring everyone. But it's when that becomes part of the mainstream that it becomes dangerous.
And apparently, by the way, Mr. Murdoch has seen that bank statement and the losses that he's had at the New York Post, because he's now backed off the backing off that you just mentioned, which we'll get to in a moment.
I see.
Yes, it changes every day. I used to work for the man, I know. Ariana Huffington of the Huffington Post, always a pleasure. Thanks. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Story tonight's worst persons in the world. LeBron's Rupert Murdoch, the Media Matters folks, tried to pin him down today on his defense of Beck's claim that President Obama was a racist. Murdoch said he didn't think the president was a racist, but he did think Beck was responding to a racist comment made by the president. Now he is apparently denying that. First, what he said to his own reporter, then what he says he didn't say.
On the racist thing, that caused a great thing, but he did make a very racist comment.
Mr. Murdoch, can you be more clear about what racist comments the president allegedly made?
I denied that absolutely.
What, you denied that? But you did.
Looks like the pirate trolley has come off the pirate track, matey. But our winner, Lonesome Road's Beck. Nora O'Donnell interviewed a teenage girl at a Sarah Palin book signing. The girl read what was written on her own T-shirt. The U.S. government handed out $700 billion in Wall Street bailouts, and all I got was this lousy T-shirt. Nora correctly pointed out that Palin supported the bailout, to the surprise of the young girl. Beck took umbrage, not with Nora's observation, nor with Palin's hypocrisy. They got to go after 13-year-olds? A 13-year-old? Got to go after a 13-year-old? His sycophant co-host asks, and did they ever do this? They ever do this to Barack Obama supporters during the campaign? You got to go after a 13-year-old. This is child abuse. I want to report this father to some sort of, you know, Department of Health and Children's Services or whatever it is for child abuse. What's the name of the young man who appeared in the Pro S-chip ad? Graham Frost, the one Michelle Malkin attacked. How old was he? 47? No, he's 12. That's right, 12. How old was the girl with the heart condition that the National Review attacked for being in the other S-chip ad? Bethany Wilkerson? 12? No, she was 2. How old was the gal that Congressman Shadegg brought to the floor of the House the other day to complain about health care reform? Held her up like a human shield, Maddie? How old was she? 2? No, she was 7 months old. Child abuse in politics, it is a right-wing requirement. Lonesome roads, when we do it, it's cool. When you do it, you're Hitler. Beck, today's worst person in the world.